Over the last 3 months, I have been researching basic information about tide pools in California. After learning characteristics of tide pools, I visited 3 in Northern California to compare their different characteristics and learn why they are each so unique. The first tide pool I visited was at Wrights Beach in Bodega. The average seawater temperature is 50 degrees Fahrenheit and is about a 2-hour drive from San Francisco. This tide pool was small but had a ginormous population of sea mussels and stunted Turkish towel. On top of the large rocks, there are many small pools that had rocks and sea lettuce in them, making them perfect homes for organisms like this line shore crab, turban snails, and these sea anemones. Large cracks in the rocks along the other side of the tide pool were homes to many different types of seaweed, including stunted Turkish towel, sea lettuce, nori, tar spot algae, and more. Turban snails, periwinkles, and whelks also were in these cracks. Sadly, I saw many jellyfish washed up on the beach, along with giant kelp. The second tide pool I visited was Steep Ravine, a Mount Tamalpais State Park. Its average sea temperature is 59 degrees Fahrenheit and it's only an hour north of San Francisco. This is a beautiful tide pool that is fairly calm because of the large rocks blocking most of the waves. There is one large pool in the middle, mostly filled with surf grass and stunted Turkish towel. Covering almost all the other rocks were turban snails, whelks with nori and tar spot algae, and flattened rockweed surrounding it. I found one large green anemone in a small pool, and it seemed like under every rock there were line shore crabs of all sizes. One large one was burrowing in the sand with 2 eels behind it, a rare sight in tide pools. Another rare sight, an invasive species of nudibranch making its way across a rock. Periwinkles and pink acorn barnacles were on many rocks, and a large number of hermit crabs use their shells as homes. The last and largest tide pool I visited was Duxbury Reef at Agate Beach in Bolinas. This is a beautiful tide pool that seemed to stretch for miles with small bunches of nori and surf grass everywhere. Encrusting coralline algae was on almost all the rocks, also covered in anemones, crabs, and snails. Hidden in small pools were many giant green anemones and aggregating anemones. There were a few small sunbursts and tourniquets in pools with those anemones. I saw many different sizes of chitin in various pools throughout. I also saw a brittle starfish that blended so well with the rocks, I almost missed it. Turban snails and periwinkles were on almost all of the rocks with limpets. I only saw a few line-shorn crabs that were so small and camouflaged into the sand like this one. Between the 3 tide pools, Wrights Beach was the smallest. I believe this is because of the constant winds, cold water, and dense fog. It did, though, have the largest colony of sea mussels and the most plants and algae. Steep Ravine had the largest population of both hermit crabs and line shore crabs living under rocks and small pools. It was also the calmest because there were large boulders blocking most of the waves. It also had the most isolated regions because of the rocks. Duxbury Reef was by far the largest and most diverse, but the downside was that because it was so large, I felt like I missed a lot of the smaller organisms living there because I was too busy looking at the big picture. Since sea temperatures are rising, organisms are migrating into colder waters and are eating the native organisms there. Because of this, many tide pools along the California coast are dying. Please be cautious of your impact on the environment because a small change can make a huge difference.